All right, GM, let me know if you can hear me. Having some audio issues myself, so go ahead and hit those emojis, hit up the 100 if you can hear me. Polaris, you're giving the high five, I think. Can you hear me?
Buenos dias.
There
Buenos
we go.
dias, Eleontology.
Oh man, technical difficulties as usual. I don't know. Actually, I usually don't have, well, no, I lie. I usually have audio issues because I switch up between devices and I have two different audio headphones. So I have an over the ear and the in ear headphones or earpieces, I suppose. And yeah, it just usually throws it for a loop. So, anyways, GM, how are we doing? Polaris, we heard you dropping up buenos dias.
Yeah, I'm getting
um,
good. I'm
yeah,
getting good.
I would have, I would have never known. I would have just assumed that, I was speaking to a native Spanish speaker. Um, Galactica, how are we doing? Great to have you up here.
Hey, what's up, ladies and gentlemen? Apologies, I had some technical issues. I'm here.
All right, yeah, no need to apologize. Technical issues apparently are going around today, so it's not out of the ordinary. Cool. Well, we'll let people trickle in here. We'll give it another minute and then we'll just get started. But in the meantime, while we wait, before we get started, before I hit on some of these topics, can we get a round of introductions, especially starting with Galactica? Why don't we introduce the speaker and then introduce Galactica? And yeah, I mean, we've seemed to be hopping into each other's spaces recently, and I really love that. I'm here for it.
Yeah, me too, man. Me too. Honestly, like the last spaces we were in, the one like before the one we just hosted on Tuesday, that was really good. It's just I really enjoy finding good builders in this space, especially during the market downturn. It's just great to be able to speak to people in just like a really calm kind of in a real like builder manner. But yeah, I'm Dave. I'm communications for Galactica Network. We're in L1 building on the Cosmos. And yeah, we're trying to do some very hefty stuff, to be honest. So we're your standard L1 in some senses, in that we are EVM compatible. You can build just about anything you want, however you want, as you can on most L1s. The interesting part about Galactica, though, is that we are attempting to bring a notion of decentralized society to the blockchain and bake it into the layer 1 protocol. So this involves a tech stack that enables us to have people accurately represented on chain. And what that means in a practical sense is digital identity. It means privacy baked in for those digital identities. It means that you're able to transact based on your reputation rather than just your money. And it means that you are capable of actually governing and running a DAO, that kind of thing, with truly with governance that makes sense. Rather than having a token-gated governance system, you have a meritocratic governance system in which the people who actually have the knowledge or who have earned the right have the ability to govern rather than just having a token-gated experience in which the whales win.
Yeah, I really love that. I don't know if you were done speaking or if I accidentally hit mute because I was trying to hit all these emojis.
No. I muted myself. It's fine. Sometimes I go on, so I like to hit the mute button just to prevent myself going off on wild rants that last minutes and minutes at a time.
No. That's we love that here. Polaris knows both of him and I could definitely fall deep down rabbit holes as well. So we're not strangers to that, and we definitely do not oppose that. It just seems like there is a beautiful synergy between the work that Galactica is doing and the work that Ontology does. And for me, that personally is very exciting. I've said it before, and I'll say it again. This space of like decentralized identity, data privacy it's too large a space for there to be like one winner, right? I know competition is fierce, and sometimes we kind of fall into that rabbit hole to call me and interrupting my Twitter space
Okay.
here. So I did not get rugged. But anyways, yeah. I'm always excited about seeing other companies, developers coming into the space and kind of generating, kind of or creating some interesting novel approaches to that technology. I actually do. So I don't know if I asked this. Sorry, hang on.
Somebody's having a bit of a moment, guys. It's okay. We'll be back to our regular scheduled programming soon.
Sorry. So there seems to be some vacuuming happening outside, and I couldn't even hear myself. So apologies for that. Um, that technical difficulty. Dear God.
Humpty, you're killing us. You are killing us, dude.
So everything from vacuuming to people insisting to call me while I'm on a Twitter space. It is why I should get a different device just for Twitter spaces. Or hey, it'd be nice if we could use it on our desktop so we don't have to worry about any other odd interruptions that are coming in through our phones. But really, honestly, the point I was trying to make, and I'll try to keep it brief then, is I enjoy seeing other people who are building in this space. Now, as someone who's building in Cosmos, I really don't know enough about that ecosystem. Tell us maybe a little bit about the types of demands from that community and maybe some parallel development in the area of like decentralized identity and data that's happening there.
Yeah, sure. So just to preface this, I am not the project's tech guy. Just so if anyone comes and tries to do a hit on me because I get something wrong, please just don't bother. I'm well hidden anyway. So we've got we chose Cosmos for a variety of reasons, but the primary one was the IBC. Cosmos, obviously, Cosmos also has a variety of really strong benefits, not least of which is that it's also EVM compatible through Evmos. But like I say, the primary one is IBC and the ability for us to be interoperable with just about everything. And that's really important for our protocol in particular, because we're not only dealing, like I said, we're not only dealing with the financial side of things, we're also dealing with the social side. And we want to be interoperable in that sense as well. So, for instance, importing and exporting, well, mostly exporting in our case, because there's very few protocols that are working on reputation. So, being able to export reputation is a valuable thing to other protocols within the Cosmos ecosystem. It's going to be a useful feature. So that's like one of our primary thesis on building on Cosmos is the interoperability and the stability and reliability of the interoperability. There's been very, very few hacks. There's been very few exploits. In fact, I believe there's only really been one major exploit that's been found, and that was actually patched up before it actually became a hack. I'm happy to be corrected on that. Again, not tech guy. But it's a very reliable, very secure system, and that's why we're very happy with it.
That's wonderful. So I guess before we jump straight into the conversation, which we're going to be talking about SocialFi and how it's helping to grow, I guess, awareness and increasing adoption of Web3. Maybe just better said, it's definitely giving us a new toy to play with in the world of Web3, maybe for those of us who are still here. One of the things that I heard from your description just now in terms of the work that you do and kind of some of the things that are happening in Cosmos is has to do with reputation. And for those who are here and have heard us before, obviously ontology, and I think I mentioned this in the previous cast, or excuse me, the previous space with y'all, has built Orange Protocol, which is a reputation protocol too. That to say that there is definitely like this really interesting way of like generating novel experiences using kind of your user activity and then kind of opening up kind of these unique and maybe private experiences for individuals. How do you like, so as someone who's also building excuse me, a product like that, how do you see that playing out in social spaces? let's think about it maybe from the lens of like social Twitter Spaces, and maybe we can consider that into to lead into how we can consider that in new applications, novel applications like Friend.tech.
Yeah, sure. So I guess in a more generalized sense, my primary thesis on the social apps in particular would be that it's going to be increasingly difficult in the next few years, to the next decade, to the next few decades, to maintain a reputable, verifiable human identity in amongst in the coming mass of artificial identities, of civil identities, which will be taking the place of most of the activity in the digital space. So being a verified human is going to become more and more valuable. So that's one. The second is that through blockchain, I believe, is the most reliable and strongest method of doing this, of proving that you are a verified human. There's not much better than blockchain for verified proof. And then having this layer of maintaining a layer of genuine human interaction via blockchain is the primary value proposition, I suppose, for social dApps.
Yeah, there's something you mentioned there that to me definitely resonates, and mostly because of the work that we've done with like civil resistance. And so for anybody in the audience who's um, probably not aware or just never heard the term, civil identities would be like these sock puppet accounts that, maybe an individual has multiple identities and is using them to try to game a system, or potentially even like bot accounts, or in the future, maybe even AI generated accounts, right? These are used to trick the system into believing that there's multiple actors, but they're all kind of being manipulated by some sort of like centralized individual or authority to attack a system, right? And so civil resistance would be to try to find a way to identify which are unique, identities with humanity attached, right? If it's important to us to know that there's a real person behind that identity, how can we attest to that, right? How can we verify that, and how can an individual attest to being human? And I think that in social spaces is not new. I think, for anybody who uses social applications like Twitter or now X.com, we know that accounts can be botted, both in terms of like creating bot accounts to fake different personalities, but also to fake engagement, so on and so forth. So this is definitely not new. But as we look at spaces like decentralized social, where there might be some incentives attached to participation, such as like Friend.tech, that civil resistance is going to become that much more important, right? To make sure that there's real value behind the people that are operating and engaging with these accounts. So I guess looking at it from that more narrow lens, how do you, and this is open to everyone, including Polaris, if you wanted to chip in here, how do you imagine, either DIDs or some sort of like reputation credential being used to surface kind of that humanity, that unique identity in decentralized social applications?
Oh, well, I have a massive take on this. So Polaris, if you want to go first, please.
Yeah, sure. I mean, first of all, nice to meet you, Galactica, and it was really nice to hear your take on and your perspective on how you guys are approaching it and the reason why you chose Cosmos. A brief introduction of me: I'm just a crypto enthusiast who's been involved in a lot of different projects. So, and also I'm a part of the ontology Harbingers, and we've been doing these community calls for years now. As far as DIDs and how they play a role in the coming context is very interesting, because, and I think I'm going to hop on to what you mentioned earlier about signifying humanity through blockchain, when we've got artificial intelligence literally mimicking every single aspect which identifies us as humans, you know. So, I mean, as far as intelligence is concerned, right, that's been pretty much mimicked. For someone who's got an average intelligent quotient, the artificial intelligence would be able to like mimic that. In fact, we're experiencing that in the society in terms of our scams and the hacks. They're becoming very personalized and very intricate. So DIDs, you know, would play an extremely important role in the layout of future, because in my vision, the current state of the internet and the intranet is pretty unsecured. And as the quantum realm has, like, you know, dawned upon us, literally, you know, our intranets are not going to be able to sustain that. So we will need to move towards cryptographic computing and securing our digital interactions in a in an encryptic manner. So so now, if I'm not sure if I've been able to paint a picture, like, you know, a future where you've got like the web pretty much, like, you know, API'd by artificial intelligence, and you as a human being need to maneuver it. So even like authentic information would need to be accessed in a way where you can verify that that information hasn't been messed around with. And I've experienced that, like, you know, playing with the GPT-4, like, you know, so many times, like, you know, I've asked it to do something and it's done something, and I've like realized that it hasn't given me the full picture. And just because I know about that aspect, i've been I've been able to, like, you know, tweak whatever result I needed to. But as far as GPT-4 is concerned, it's literally, like, you know, given me all the best information, but it was, most of the time I realized that it was corrupted information, or it was like a very scrutinized perspective. So yeah, we would need human identifiers which can be cryptographically verifiable, and the path leads towards DIDs, you know. Now, in terms of like which blockchain would be used to, like, I like, you know, use them, layer ones, layer twos, it doesn't really matter, because I see a future with lots of blockchains working in cohesion with each other. So it's good that, you know, ontology as well as Galactica, both of you are like EVM compatible. So because seems like Ethereum is like the heart of all these blockchains, and yeah, it's very interesting. So yeah, that's my take. But I tend to give like very vague takes, because it's like a very vague industry where you know,
It's
it's like,
completely fair, man. Yeah, fucking hell. It's there's so much going on, and there's so much tech, and especially like it's a lot of this stuff has only really become possible in the last few years with advancements in zero knowledge tech, that kind of thing. So you know, it's a whole big thing. And it's really nice to meet you too as well, Polaris. It's great to meet you. So as far as well, firstly, you actually pointed out something really cool as well, on like the verification of like digital of data. That's something that I'm going to be chatting with the guys from Jackal Protocol and Serenity Shield. That'll be next week. We'll be doing a space with them on digital storage, on decentralized storage rather. And I'll give you a little alpha. I'm going to be talking with them about some ideas we've been having about verification at source using zk proofs. So like embedded in hardware, you have a zk proof attached to, say, a photo or something, and then that zk proof would essentially prove that throughout the lifespan of that photo, wherever the hell it goes, whatever protocol it interacts with, that it hasn't been changed. And if it has been changed, that zk proof will prove that it has been changed. So it will basically not allow any edits. It won't allow anything, any pixel changes, nothing. And I think that kind of like base layer verification is something that's going to be very valuable in the future. That's a really good point you brought up there. But in any case, getting back to the actual topic again. Sorry, Humpty. I do tend to go off on tangents. So as far as DIDs, we found in our methodology we have two methods of ensuring Sybil resistance. We bootstrap our Sybil resistance via a zk KYC framework. So this is like leveraging off-chain entities, so trusted off-chain entities that we already have, people you already KYC with, say Binance, so any centralized exchange really, or any off-chain entity that will notarize your KYC documents. So we utilize an off-chain on-chain link, which is powered by zk, and in which your blockchain address is obfuscated from the off-chain entity via a commitment hash. So you can essentially communicate off-chain without giving up your identity. So any documents you send to an off-chain entity will never be tieable to your blockchain address. That's the point of it. So you maintain your privacy at the very base stage. That's very important. So obviously privacy is one of the fundamental rights that we're trying to maintain on a Galactica network. And it must be included in this bootstrapping phase of Sybil resistance. So that's how we get like an initial set of like verified humans by having what we call we're essentially offering the chance to be a citizen for the first time to a blockchain. This is where our decentralized society concepts come in. If you're not aware, decentralized society is something that's been touted for a few years now, I would say. It's been kind of popularized now by the network states, Borgia Oliver, and then a few more concepts that have come up in papers by Vitalik and others. But the point really is for blockchain to become not just the greatest financial layer in the world, but also a true extension of society. Not to replace society, that should be very, very clear, but to provide an extension of society and provide a place for digital, verifiable humans to interact with each other in a way that is Sybil resistant. So that's kind of like the identity path from off-chain to on-chain with Galactica. So then once you've got your on-chain, you've got like this notarized zero knowledge proof from an off-chain entity that can prove that you're KYC'd. You can then prove to any other entity on-chain in a private manner. You can selectively disclose any information you want using a zk certificate, which is essentially just a soul-bound NFT in which you can prove, you can prove to any entity on-chain anything you wish. In this case, with KYC, it would be that maybe you're over 18, or you're not from a sanctioned region, to a DEX or something that wanted to be regulatory compliant in a regulatory manner with, say, the United States. You can do that. You can actually maintain compliance on Galactica Network, which is very important if you want to get in institutional investment, for example. So then you also have our concept of persistent identities. So this is the more decentralized aspect. You can actually start from zero with this if you wanted to. You wouldn't have to do the ZK KYC, and you don't have to. Just for reference, you don't need to become a citizen. You don't need a ZK KYC in order to use Galactica Network. But if you want to just use it as a permissionless blockchain with a reputational aspect to it, you can. And from there, you kind of start as an address, so I feel like I've gone on for a bit. I do apologize, Humpty, if I've gone on too long. Sorry,
No.
man.
I wanted to build on what you said there. No. So please don't apologize. The one thing I should do better is interrupt, but I actually love listening to when people are explaining things, especially of things that I don't know anything about. So in this case, kind of the way that you Galactica, builds in the space of identity and reputation. So I was all ears, but I did raise my hand because I wanted to build on what you were saying there. So you talked about something that, and I personally am very well aware of, and I think anybody who's in the world of like decentralized identity data reputation has heard of, and that has to do with like network states, decentralized social or society. Very familiar with with some of the writings that you described here by Pooja, Vitalik, and Glenn. Which then, of course, I believe inspired Balaji to extend that into the network states. So as you describe that, as you talk about like generating identities for the network state, right, or for like these decentralized societies, how do you imagine then that decentralized social applications, right? So if we were to imagine then that we have a decentralized society, which means it's just a group of people that organize online versus having to be a group of people that have to organize in person, a group of people that govern themselves online or on chain instead of having to govern themselves as, some sort of like physical body, right? So a country, for instance, a state, a city, but this all exists at some digital level, at a virtual level. We can then, I assume, also think of like decentralized social applications as town squares where people go and meet and socialize. And of course, socializing it can be different things for different people. Some people choose to socialize to build something together, whether that is building digital goods like software, or that is building physical goods like a house, right? Or that is building some sort of like public good, which maybe is some sort of like nonprofit that benefits a group of underrepresented people. I don't know. But the point being is we can imagine then that these decentralized social applications then are becoming hubs for people to come together, socialize, hang, relate, tell stories, build, just simply just be friends and just hang out, have a virtual beer. How do you think these identities then translate for this type of application? Do we have different identities for different environments? Do we have one, and I think you used this word, persistent identity, that we use to kind of traverse this entire decentralized society? And then I'll ask the next question afterwards. First of all, in terms of identities, do we have one? Do we have many? Is it a pluralistic identity in which we can present ourselves differently to different communities that we're part of?
So yeah, 100%. I mean, the way that we've set up the system is that you could KYC and become a citizen, and then you would have one human ID. You could then have multiple sub accounts, which would be different persistent identities. So you could have a persistent identity, just for in our context here, is just a reputable account. So it's an account that based on its Web3 footprint, i.e. its history, its accumulated SBTs, its interactions with dApps, that Web3 footprint equals its reputation. So that's a persistent identity. It's just a reputable account. And then based on that reputation, you can interact. So you can have one human ID, you could have multiple sub accounts. Each sub account would have its own reputation, and you could use them in different ways. But in the end, you can always identify yourself if you wish. Again, you can always maintain your privacy if you wish to. So that's that's the main point, I guess. Sorry, I think I've managed to lose the base question. I apologize. Can you just repeat the base question?
No, I think you answered it. I think you answered it. The question was to do with pluralistic identities and how we would present ourselves in these different kind of social spaces, right? Do we have different identities for, socializing just in general, and then maybe even breaking that up into socializing in different groups? Do we have different identities that we do to participate in economic systems like banking, trading?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, and yes, you can have that. So if you wish to just be like a singular, like monolithic persistent identity in which you become a citizen, you KYC, you become a citizen of Galactica Network, or or whichever equivalent in ontology as a DID, you can then just use this like singular account to do everything, and you can build up a reputation that spans years, decades, whatever, however long you wish, and then based on the reputation built over that time, you can interact with your family, you can interact with your friends, you can interact with banks, you can interact with schools and education systems, you can interact with anything you want based on your reputation, rather than having a financial basis for a social system. Because for my basic thesis on social interaction is that it can't be, for the most part, it shouldn't be, at least, based on financial incentives, which I'm sure we'll get to Friend.tech at some point.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Well, we're taking the very long way to get to, I guess, the core of the discussion, which obviously is driven by the popularization of Friend.tech and its growth in SocialFi. But to that effect, I did have a follow-up question, since you are describing Galactica's kind of technical approach to generating identities. I obviously can comfortably speak for how ontology does it, right? Because this is just something that we've been building for some time. I mean, ontology way longer than even me coming in and contributing to this space and to this project. They use an open standard called DIDs, or decentralized identifiers, a W3C standard, which then you can bind multiple identities, right? So that's the beauty of it. I think to the core of what you were saying too is, yes, you have a core identity from which you can actually create multiple sub-identities that those can be used to interact and earn reputation in different ways from different applications. And then you create like this comprehensive reputation then at the core identity. When it comes to Galactica, what's the open standard, or it's not open standard, excuse me, what is the core tech, the standard on which you build upon? Because I don't think I understood that, and at least for clarification, I'd love to understand that.
Okay, so yeah, this is where my technical ability falls apart a bit. My base.
No worries.
It's all right.
You can tell us to go read a technical doc.
No, there's plenty of those. I can link you plenty of those. Sure. If you want to go to galactica.com and go to the research section, very large tab at the very top of the first page, there are plenty of documents to read there regarding our tech and our approach. But yeah, as far as like just the identity system, again, it's just the bootstrapping via ZK KYC, which informs our citizens, and our citizens bootstrap the Sybil resistance of the blockchain to start with. But then any reputable identity on chain, by its nature, becomes more complex over time. So if you have an identity that becomes more complex over time, it becomes more Sybil resistant over time. It's essentially a feedback loop of ever increasing Sybil resistance for the entire network through reputation. Sorry, Polaris, you have your hand on me. If you
jump in. And before we jump straight to Polaris, because I think we should, I think that there's room here for collaboration. I'd love to see that. I mean, we're already collaborating on spaces. I think there'd be an interesting collaboration between Galactica and Ontology. I'd love to see that.
Yes, sir. I agree. We need some more back alley channels.
Yep. Polaris, go ahead, man. Sorry to break.
No, it's okay. I think we should like hone in onto Friend.tech and SocialFi. Like, you know, what have you guys
What are we
got?
boring you with the tech talk? Come on now.
No, I think we've only got 20 minutes left, and I really wanted to, like, you know, hear your point of views on this. I think
Sure.
we've had a brilliant conversation so far, and yeah, it makes sense, like in terms of ontology and Galactica, like collaborating and coming up with some sort of an interesting mashup. But yeah, I think like what's
We
the
got
Friend.tech?
overexcited. We got way overexcited. Let's talk about Friend.tech. I get it. Okay.
Okay, so let's just briefly introduce Friend.tech. What I mean, at least as I understand it, what it is, and kind of how it's accelerated both its own attention and adoption. There's been a ton of people that have started to use the application. I personally just got an invite code, so stay tuned for my own deep dive into that. But also, it's accelerated some of the, I guess, transaction activity, probably better said, happening over on Base because it's built on Base. Um, what are your 2 cents? We'll start with Galactica. As far as like Friend.tech, what do you think really has driven a lot of the attention and usage of that platform?
Okay. I'm okay. I'll provide bearish takes and I'll provide bullish takes. Okay, I promise. I'm not just going to be bearish. But we got to consider that we are in a very a market downturn. We'll call it that market downturn, and we have a very small pool of people, and all of those small pool of people are quite genuine, I would say. These are the people who are left at the bottom of a bear market tend to be the builders. They tend to be the true believers. They tend to be, in some way, very engaged. Now, Friend.tech has kind of come along at this point, just for the context of the listener, right? So it's in a favorable condition for what it is. It is it's a social token protocol. People can like buy shares of other people with ETH, which is nice, by the way. They decided to use bridged ETH for the token, so it opens it up to a lot more people. And they provided a bridge, like a very easy to use bridge, in order to get your funds over there. So that's also very, very good. So basically, you buy shares of other people to access a token gated chat. That's the core premise, unless I've missed something. So it's I think it's probably going to open up to a lot of comparisons with BitClout, for anyone who remembered that one. That was I think 2021. A very, very similar kind of, at least incentive model, I think, that petered out, not only because it petered out for several reasons, but primarily it was there were some legal issues, I think, with copyright infringement, publicity rights, securities law violations, all sorts of things, and even money laundering with BitClout. But honestly, the legal issues that it ran into were kind of, in my opinion, by the wayside. By the time the legal issues started really hammering home, the platform had already kind of petered out a bit. So the issues with it were that it really wasn't very user-friendly. It didn't really offer anything to the people who were viewing the content. It was kind of more a social club for people who already had money and who already had influence. Which is not a great basis for a social app. Which again leads back to my original point that a social system shouldn't really be based on finance. But in any case, it does have, I would say, just from looking at it briefly before this call, it has a more sensible incentive model than BitClout. It does appear to actually be it seems to overcome a few of the legal issues that BitClout ended up having. It has a better wallet integration, because on BitClout, I don't think, if I recall correctly, I don't believe you could actually withdraw in any meaningful way. In this app, you can. You can even export your wallet and then withdraw from that. So that's awesome. There is a massive tax, I think I read just now. There's a 10% tax on all sales. So that's going to be a liquidity issue, I imagine. And yeah, I don't know if I should stop or if I should keep on going, to be honest, and get some opinions. But it's an interesting protocol. My primary thing is just that I don't think a social app based on a financial model has any long-term legs, you know?
Yeah. I actually heard of BitClout, and I believe, gosh, it feels like 2021 feels like so long ago. I believe that I actually had signed up. I can't remember, to be very honest. But you were talking about some of some of the issues that kind of drove, or maybe not drove, but kind of like caused some of its decline. Do you think part of that has to do with just the network it's on? Or maybe you've already responded to that and saying that it has to do with the incentives that are used within that platform to incentivize individuals to join and incentivize people to participate in that ecosystem.
I think in general, even already, I don't know how long Friend.tech has actually been out. I'm ignorant to that. I think it's only been a few weeks, or even less. I don't know, but it's a week. Okay, cool. So it's already got a more positive sentiment, I would say, because I do remember BitClout quite vividly because I was railing against it horribly. But it was. There was already a very negative sentiment towards it. Whereas on crypto Twitter right now, I'm just looking around everything trending, everything that's recent, and most people seem to be simply enjoying playing with it, even if they're not really utilizing it to any real extent. They're enjoying playing with it, and there doesn't seem to be any massive negativity around it. So yeah, I mean, most of the negativity from BitClout actually came from the same kind of points that I was making before. It's just like the social interactions on a financial model. But with Friend.tech, it seems that people are just more inclined to enjoy using it. So there's a few loops, I guess, that it could potentially be valuable. So I think if you get a popular chat, like a popular gated chat, you provide value, then you get more buyers of your shares, and those shares, from what I've seen, are the price is based on a bonding curve. So the more that they get bought, the higher the price. I've just I opened an account an hour ago, and my shares have gone from they've gone up by about 15% just by me buying an extra share, and some sniping person, I guess, I don't know them, so I assume they're some kind of sniping person, has already bought another share. So my price has now gone up. This is obviously something that could lead to, and obviously it's a financial gate and a financial ceiling as well on the potential of any chat. So yeah, it's a strange thing, but they're also offering some incentives for people actually using the app, which is nice, which BitClout didn't have. So they've already teased an airdrop for I think either this week or next, for anyone who's been using it, anyone who's been giving out invites, all that kind of thing. You've seen all these invites going out on Twitter, I'm sure. And they've already collected a fair chunk of fees, which they're using to fund these airdrops, I assume. So it's going to be a quick burning app, I think. I haven't yet seen anything that tells me that it's got any real long-term plan.
When you say airdrop, it already kind of indicates that could be where a lot of the organic excitement starts to dwindle. Because I don't think that it's any surprise to kind of see that applications, protocols, whatever platforms that um, are starting off usually get some level of excitement because people will basically try to gamify kind of their usage of the platform because there is a suspicion that there could be a future airdrop. And so that drives a lot of demand. Obviously, anything that is kind of token gated, that is restricted access, will drive some curiosity, which then will drive some of that growth, not a lot. But I think in Web3, airdrops are kind of a huge reason why people will start to use a product. I'm surprised that an airdrop would be announced so soon, actually. Um,
Just for
maybe there's
clarification, I don't think they've actually announced it yet,
okay.
but they've included a button for it. So, yeah.
Oh, interesting. Oh, I mean, that's as good as announcing it, I suppose. It's just really interesting, right? Because if that is the case, and again, I'm not advocating or saying that that's happening, and you're not saying that that's happening either. Um, it is such a strange kind of a course to take because the likelihood is that after an airdrop, usage will fall. But I'm just speaking from experience, having seen some other similar applications lose some of their momentum after that. One of the only projects that I know that actually has not done too terrible after an airdrop, and this is because they do multiple airdrops. That is Optimism. So maybe they'll copy that model where there's retroactive airdrops to users over time, and they'll scale based on
Well,
when
that
they
would make
first started.
sense. I mean, they seem to, from what I've put together, they haven't announced any of this, by the way, just what I've put together from reading their documentation, as well as all the social chatter, is that they're going to be funding airdrops via the fees raised. So it could be a long-term thing.
Yeah, that's good. That makes sense. I mean, especially if they're collecting fees. I'm a huge fan of using Farcaster. So for anybody who's out there who doesn't know, just get in my DMs. My account is hovering out there somewhere. It's called Data Dude. Um, I mean, I just really like the community that's been built around that. There is no financialization of your activity there. It's really just a bunch of like core, tech enthusiasts, maybe even more narrowly ETH enthusiasts who have adopted the social platform. And it is probably one of the fun decentralized social apps to use because they actually use this as their marketing. It's decentralized enough, or sufficiently decentralized is what their tagline is. So not everything is decentralized, and so because of that, the user experience is really high. But again, there is a gate, there is a invitation required to get in. And I know that drives some of the attention to wanting to use that platform. But yeah, anyways, airdrops is not the point of what we're talking about. It's really interesting though to see how Friend.tech again, and as I mentioned earlier, has driven a lot of um, not just attention but activity on Base. I mean, it makes you almost believe that maybe Base is the one that launched it. I'm not saying that they did, but it would be an interesting way to try to accelerate the usage of that platform during what they call on-chain summer. Any thoughts in terms of creating these initiatives, projects, platforms as a way to drive usage on a blockchain? I think maybe you can speak to from the lens of Cosmos, and maybe there's something there that's also increasing a lot of adoption rather quickly.
Yeah, I mean, 100%. I think usage and adoption is one of those things that crypto has truly struggled with, and I think it's struggled with that because it's essentially the best use case that it has, that we currently have for crypto, is as the back end for a financial system. Like, it is the best financial system I've ever seen, for sure. But it is essentially kind of boring infrastructure when you actually get down to it, in which a lot of people have decided to build a lot of stuff that doesn't make much sense, that is purely financially motivated, and often quite malign in the way that it's been built on top of that financial system. So a lot of it's kind of irrelevant. There are there are a lot of reasons why having the social side of blockchain get introduced to the industry is going to be the Kickstarter of actually of real usage. So you can have. I apologize. Sometimes I go on. Sometimes I have a thought and I simply lose it. There's too much going on. Can you just repeat the base question again? I'm too sorry.
No worries. I mean, it really just had to do with social applications being an accelerant to adoption. In this case, Friend.tech on base, and then asking more specifically in the Cosmos ecosystem, maybe there's something similar. And just again, all of this to frame
I got
a
you.
response
Yes.
around how do we see this playing out in the future with applications driving attention and adoption.
Yeah, so I mean, I'm so bullish on Cosmos as an ecosystem and as a vision. Okay, so the Cosmos vision kind of aligns with our vision of how crypto and blockchain goes. So firstly, we introduced the social. We introduced the concept of digital humans transacting as verifiably in a digital space, which you can only really do in something like blockchain. So you have the social side, you have that introduced. Now we need to introduce analogs of societal institutions. You need to make sure that verifiable humans have something to do, and you need to make sure that they have viable use cases. Now, all the viable use cases for verifiable humans have already been built for the most part in the real world. We've done it. We've done that. So we need to build analogs of that in this extension of society that we build upon crypto. So that's kind of the concept that we are attempting to realize. Is Galactica network would be a cipher state. It's something that we call a cipher state. Other people call them network states. The name doesn't matter. The point is that they are an analog of a chunk of society. Now on Cosmos, we have this massive focus on interoperability. Now, if you can imagine, we have not one cipher state or one network state, we have many. So Galactica would be a cipher state, ontology would be a network state, and they would be interoperable. You could imagine them as an analog of real nation states. You could imagine them as France and Germany. They would have their own governance systems. They would have their own way of doing things, but they would be completely interoperable. There would be all the benefits of blockchain there. So you would have free, fair, and hopefully, if there were privacy layers, then you would have private transactions cross borders. There would be no borders as such. It would simply be dictated by code. So you would have governance systems with law by code. You would have all of these things that we have in society now, but on chain and essentially verified in proof. So rather than having trust me, bro, it would be okay. The code says this. That's what it is. That's the result, and now the code will implement the action. So I think that's a better system, especially of nation-state governance. We wouldn't need to worry about corruption in such a massive way if we implement it correctly, and we would be able to be interoperable with our fellow nation states. So no one blockchain would ever, we believe at least, no one blockchain is ever going to win the race and become the overarching backbone of everything we do in the digital space. That's just not going to happen. There's too many variables. There's too much game theory going on for that to ever happen. But having an interoperable space in which each blockchain and its verifiable humans interact freely and fairly, that's possible. So yeah, that's pretty much it in a very long-winded and probably overarching way.
Yeah, thank you so much for that very descriptive response. I was looking for the the clap sound, but I because I even see Polaris doing the multiple clap. I know that there's some audio here, and I've used it before, but I couldn't find it. Oh wait, enough of that. Anyways, all right. Well, as we come around to the final half, or the final few minutes here of this conversation, tell us where we can learn more about yourself and Galactica, or maybe just Galactica, since you're behind the Galactica account, and we can close out. Um, yeah, and maybe Polaris as well.
Yeah, sure, no worries. So no one ever wants to know about me. That's fine. But for Galactica, we can you can go to galactica.com. That's where that's our main point of call. But socially, you want to come to our Discord. So if you jump in Discord, we can guide you, we can help you, we can try and answer as many questions as possible, and we can get you started. Again, the research tab on the galactica.com website. That's where you'll find all the tech stuff. It's where you'll find our ideals, our vision, and our tech. And you'll also find that we've just opened up our DevNet. So that would be really cool if you could jump up and sign up for the DevNet. Technically, you don't even have to be a developer to sign up. If you don't, just sign up. We can get through the ZK KYC process, which is kind of like the primary thing we're testing on the DevNet right now. It's all very bare bones right now. We've only really just started going out publicly facing. So yeah, if you could help us out by trying out the ZK KYC process in the DevNet, we'd really appreciate that. Any feedback you can give us would be wonderful. In fact, I think we just put out a short video, and we'll put out a long one soon, I think, describing exactly how to do that. Again, on the Discord side of things, we have the CipherState campaign. It's a simple social campaign that allows you to get your Galactica Network citizenship in one of the earlier distribution waves. That has a variety of perks. I think the main perk of holding a Galactica Network passport would be the universal basic income. So the universal basic income is provided to all citizens in perpetua as long as you hold the NFT in your wallet, and that income is based on the output of the Galactica Network. So citizens earn from how well the network does. It's also a mechanism we use for public good funding. We have an entire public goods funding model, which you can also find in the research section of the website. There's a lot to go through, to be honest, and probably listening to me monotone the whole thing is going to be boring. But in conclusion, check out the website, check out the Discord, and follow the profile, please.
Wonderful. Yeah. And for anybody else who wants to learn more about ontology, also go to ont.io. All the links are there. We host these spaces weekly, every Thursday, right? We're on Thursday at the same time. So that's 2000 UTC. Thank you so much, Galactica, for joining us. Hopefully not the last time. And for everybody else, have a wonderful day and a wonderful weekend. Bye-bye.